welcome back to Gapey's Garden. Today we are doing a tomato tour. I started, I believe, 22 different varieties from seed this year, and I'm using these Texas tomato cages, which are really strong and they fold up for easy storage, so they're my favorite cage for tomatoes, and they've lasted me, I think this is the 4th year we've used these. So starting here with the bigger tomatoes, this is the Comstock, which I got seeds from my mom. She grew them in her garden a couple years ago and really liked them, so I thought I'd give them a try. They do tend to take forever to ripen, so I've only picked one so far, and it's got this little cluster here and then a couple more tomatoes up here at the top. So I'm not super impressed. I don't like that they take so long to ripen. And then over here we have this is the Garden Peach, and it's supposed to have kind of a fuzzy skin, but I don't really find it that fuzzy, and they're much smaller than what I was expecting. Most of the tomatoes are kind of cherry shaped or cherry sized, but we do have a couple other larger ones. You can see up here some going towards the top, there's a lot more, and yeah, I'm really not impressed with how small they are. And I don't know if you noticed on here, but the little on the stems, some of the parts up here are getting yellow, which I've never seen before. It's not a bad thing, I don't think, but it's just unusual. And then over here we have the Painted Lady. This is the one that had the variegated leaves and when they were starts, but once I put them out in the garden, they just didn't stay variegated. And as you can see, I didn't think this was a determinate variety, but oh, actually look, there's some variegation on these leaves up here, I just noticed. But yeah, it's not really growing hardly at all. It's just got that one cluster of tomatoes there on the bottom, and it only got to about 2 feet tall and then just stopped growing. And then next here we have, this is the Tiger Pear, and actually this one is taking the longest to ripen. I haven't had any ripe fruits on this one yet, but the coloring or the design on the fruit is kind of interesting. It's kind of little green stripes on those, so we'll see how they look when they ripen. Hopefully they ripen before too long. And then going here on the other side, this is the Porkchop Tomato, which I really like this one, and it's actually pretty productive for a large sized tomato. But the tomatoes are yellow and they've got some green striping on them, which is really pretty. And that green does go away as the tomato gets more ripe. But this one is a really tasty and really big tomato. And then here we have Mortgage Lifter, which is another beefsteak. I've already harvested a few of those, and I did enter one into the fair. And it's not super productive. I mean, it's got most of the fruit here on the bottom, but it hasn't set much towards the top. I don't think it's going to set any more fruit other than what's down here. And then same with this is the Fortunia, which is an Italian paste tomato that I got seeds from the Modern Day Settler on Instagram. And I'm really liking, this is the 2nd year I've grown it, but the fruits are huge. It sets a lot towards the bottom, and it's got one monster one here, but it isn't super productive. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 tomatoes on there, and I have harvested a couple already. And then Blue Beauty, this one is, I've grown the Black Beauty before, but this is the 1st year I've grown the Blue Beauty, and it is a beauty. These are a really nice tomato. I'm really impressed with the size and the shape and color. Really nice. Now let's move on to the cherry tomatoes. This here is the Autumn Sunrise, and this was supposed to be a cherry tomato, but as you can see, they're quite large sized. This is I think an F3 hybrid developed by somebody that I met on Facebook, so I wanted to give it a try. But it gets yellow fruit with a little bit of orange blushing. I've picked a couple, but this is another one that's been kind of late to ripen, but the fruits, it's very productive. Lots of fruit set all the way up the plant. So I'm really liking this one here. I just wish it ripened a little bit sooner. And then here's one. This one is the BB cherry tomato, and this one drops fruit very easily. But I've kind of lost a few green ones even because the fruit just fell off. I'm not super impressed with this one. It hasn't gotten very tall and just not really a very productive plant for a cherry tomato, so I don't think I'll be growing that one again. And then here we have blue creamberries. I grew the, let's see, what was it, blue gold berries last year and was really, really happy with that one, but I'm not as impressed by this one. It's, for one thing, it splits really, really easily. And as you can see, here's one here that's already split. But I'm not a fan of this one. It's not as productive, I don't think, as the blue gold berries that I grew last year. So yeah, I'm not really liking that one too much. And then this one here is the pink Vernissage, and it's got some beautiful coloring and striping on that. This is the first year I've grown that one, but I'm pretty happy with this one. It's been pretty productive and it was pretty early to start ripening. And then next we have, this is a new one by Brad Gates from Wild Boar Farms, and this one is called Cosmo, I believe. Yeah, so this is Cosmo. Let me just pick one so you could see that. So it's got some kind of yellow spots along the bottom, and then the top is kind of a purple, dark purple color. It's a really neat. I haven't actually, I think this is only the second one I've harvested so far, but I'm really liking the color and size, and it's fairly productive. It's getting some tomatoes up all along the top of the plant. Okay, let's go to the other side. So this one here is my favorite cherry tomato. This is the Berries Crazy Cherry, also from Wild Boar Farms. And it is the most productive cherry tomato I've ever grown. And it's probably the sweetest one as well, even sweeter than the Sungolds that I've grown. And it's just loaded to the gills with tomatoes. And then next is the Blanco Kitchen, which I think is a German cherry tomato, and it's also another super productive tomato. You can see, let's see if we can get back here. Look at all those fruits. All those are the Blanco Kitchen, just totally loaded. It might even be more productive than the Berries Crazy Cherry. And also, these are also very sweet, so I might grow this one again actually. And then here next we have Matt's Wild Cherry, and it's a small red cherry tomato, but I'm not impressed with how productive it is because it's not very productive. I've only harvested, I don't know, maybe a couple baskets full, if that, and it's not, small baskets. So I'm not impressed with that one, unfortunately. So this one is supposed to be a San Marzano, which I know isn't the cherry tomato, but I just planted it over here because I had more room. But I don't think this is what they're supposed to look like, so I'm not sure what this is actually. But it is pretty productive. It has a lot of fruit set and a pretty good size. Lots more up here. And I haven't actually harvested one of these, so I'm not sure how they taste. And then lastly we have the Sungold, and it's pretty productive, but it hasn't been ripening very quickly. I've only picked a few of these so far, but there's a lot of green tomatoes left on the plant, so hopefully it'll start picking up ripening here pretty soon. We've got lots of tomatoes all the way up to the top here. And I've actually, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been cutting off a lot of the lower leaves of all the tomato plants so that I don't get blight, because I've been hearing reports of some of the people in the area already getting hit with late blight, and I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. All right, we have one more area to go over. So these are the ones that I've grown in the compost bins, and I grew 4 in here this year, and they didn't do all that great, but we'll show you what happened here. So we've got the German lunchbox, which is a cherry, kind of a large size cherry tomato, and it is doing pretty good. It was a little bit late getting going, but it's got tomatoes set all the way up. And I ran out of Texas tomato cages, so I'm using a bamboo pole for this one, and I've just kept it trimmed to one single stem. And then going back here, I used a traditional cage for this one, and this is the Pomodoro or Pomodoro Roma. And it's actually, the fruits are very small, which I'm not liking, and it's not been very productive so far. And I've also seen a lot of blossom end rot on a lot of these fruits, which I haven't had much of an issue with on tomatoes this year. But I've just been picking those off because they're not going to be very good. But I'm not going to be able to see much productivity from this one, and I haven't harvested any, but these are looking about ready to harvest. And then next we have Dark Galaxy. So this one, I haven't actually had any ripe fruit on this one. All the fruits don't seem to be growing much, and I don't know, here's probably the biggest one, but I don't know, some of them are just not ripening up properly, so I don't know if I'll get any of a harvest off this one. But I've got this one in a green plastic tomato cage. And then we have, let's see, this one is the Subarctic Plenty, and it's kind of a large-ish cherry. Not quite a cherry, I don't think, but it's been doing okay. I think it's a determinate variety, so it's not going to get too big, but it's just starting to ripen up some fruit. Now there's let me just show you real quick this volunteer tomato. I'm not sure what it is, but it's doing really, really well over here on the side of the compost bins. Lots of tomatoes set, and hopefully they'll start ripening up soon. And lastly, we have our hanging basket cherry tomatoes. This is the Lil Bites variety, which is a hybrid that I'm giving a try, and it hasn't been super productive, but it's been doing all right. We have lots of ripe fruit set, and these are actually pretty tasty for a dwarf variety, and usually the ones that I've grown in the past haven't been as sweet, but these ones are actually pretty good. They do tend to split a little bit after picking. And the one on this side, I've got two of them. The one on this side actually had a little accident. So you can see the stem split there. I tried to get it kind of tied up to this wire here, and it seems to be holding out okay. The branch surprisingly hasn't died off, but it's hanging in there. And we've got lots of tomatoes set on there and some ripe ones as well. And that's it for the tomatoes this year. I have a few volunteers which I'll go over in another video. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.